Hi. Welcome to Xpoda. In this video, we will start to recognize the Xpoda Studio platform via a task management application. As an introduction, let's build a simple app in Xpoda. Go ahead and log in into your account. Let's proceed with clicking Create New App. Assign a name to your app. Create a module for your app. Either you create a free form from scratch, or you can also do a responsive form. We'll go with the free form. First, you have to give a name for your form in the name field. Let first form be task identification in your project. Now, you assign the table name which that form uses. While naming, use the same code at the beginning of each one to easily access all the tables in your project. The display name is what the users will see when the application is running. Let's create field names and the input fields for the form. Create a label so that, and name it as task identification. Add a drop-down box where you can add task type. Add a text box and name it as task title. After that, you identify the fields such as status, comments, deadline, priority, responsible, and attachments. You can change the field measurements and design it as you need. When you've done with designing your form, you have to click the Save button. Once it's saved, you'll click on the Run to create the client screen. You can edit the label border. Create a new form and name it as variable definition. From the toolbar on the left, add text box and name it Name. Add a drop-down box and name it as Type. Pull the field style from the fixed value to the SQL query so that you can pull data from the database to the drop-down box. Prepare the SQL query from the TM variable table and let it fill up automatically. Include the type field to be filtered into the query. Select Equal from the filter operations and leave it blank from the filter field. Delete the type query from the Select section. Add a list tool. Create the SQL query from the TM variable table you have prepared. Select the variable definition form and add new action to this form. When the form is opened, the value should be updated. Select the field to be updated from the Value Area section. Let's save and run your app to see changes. Return to the task identification form and create a SQL query in the task type field. Include the type field to be filtered into the query. Select equal from the filter operations and type 1 in the filter field. Delete the type query from the select section. Save and run your app to see changes. Create a SQL query in the status field. Select equal from the filter operations and type 6 in the filter field. Delete the type query from the select section. Create a SQL query in the priority field. Select equal from the filter operations and type 11 in the filter field. Delete the type query from the select section. Create a SQL query in the responsible field. Since you do not have a responsible table yet, let's assume that the users registered in the system are responsible. Users registered in the system are in the table Xpoda client users. Create your query by pulling user ID and user full name from this field. Save and run your app to see changes. Create a new form and name it as Activities. Add a text box and name it as Message. To store more data in the database, increase the table long section to 500 characters. Since this text box can receive multi-line of data, set multi-line property to Yes. Add Hour tool and name it as Hours. Add numeric box and name it as Percentage. Add numeric box and name it as Task ID. Save and return to the task identification form. Add a text box and name it as Message. Add Hour tool and name it as Hours. Add numeric box and name it as Percentage. Add numeric box and name it as User Table ID. Set the form only property to Yes in the User Table ID, Percentage, Hours and Message fields. Add a button and name it as Submit. Save the form and re-log in into your project. Add new action to Submit button and select the ones required. Click on the Mapping button and select the required values. Set Save when turned on and Form Hide properties to Yes. Select the Activities form, add action to this form, and select the ones required. Return to the Task Identification form and add a list. Create the SQL query from the TM Activities table you have prepared. Include the Task ID field to be filtered into the query. Select Equal from the filter operations and select $P User Table ID from the filter field. Delete the Task ID query from the Select section. Add new action to User Table ID field and select the ones required. Update the action of Submit button. Closing action will be user table ID. When the value changes, update value. Save and run your app to see changes. Add new label and name it as Activities. You can design the form as you need. Add new label and name it as Submit Activity. Add new action to task title field and select the ones required. Create the SQL query from the TM tasks table you have prepared. Include the name field in the query from the TM variable table to show status. Master field will be status, join field will be user table ID. Include the user full name field in the query from the Xpoda client users table to show responsible. Master field will be responsible, join field will be user ID. Save and run your app to see changes. Have fun!